actually have this pretty vivid memory of when Claude Code first came out. After a long day, we had just put our daughter to bed and we sat down on the couch and we opened YouTube to find this announcement video, this one right here. And it was, Kat and Boris from Anthropic, and they were quite excited about this new product that they were releasing. At a certain point, I think it was Boris who said that Claude Code would unlock this amazing ability to, quote, work with Claude directly in your terminal. And as soon as he said that, I just think they kind of lost me. And because the demo was obviously so coding specific, it just didn't ignite the same enthusiasm in me as it did for them, and obviously others. A few weeks later, I think curiosity just got the better of me, and I did end up giving it a try. And I basically never looked back. It's been my main AI assistant ever since then. So if you have been thinking, nope, too developer-y about Claude Code, then this video is for you. I'm going to show you how easy and fast it is to install Claude Code, how it can help you build an AI-powered workspace that organizes your work, processes notes, and acts as your personal knowledge assistant. We're going to start by installing Claude Code and creating a workspace folder. Then we're going to get Claude in the game to help build out a folder structure. And finally, we're going to connect all of this to Obsidian. And the reason I'm using Obsidian in this setup is that it gives you a nice polished interface to read and edit Markdown files. And Markdown files happen to be a really nice format to work on with Claude Code. So in that way, Claude Code and Obsidian kind of complement each other very naturally. And Obsidian also happens to have a lot of extra features that are specific to knowledge management that can also be really nice. Then let's just jump right into installing Claude Code. I have Anthropic's Claude Code docs open, and I'm going to follow the instructions for setting up Claude Code. And this way you can kind of see how it's going to look before you do it yourself. Always check first the system requirements. If you have a fairly new computer, there shouldn't be any issue here, but it's always nice just to double check you have what's necessary to run Claude Code. If you're on a Mac like me, you can get most of this information under About This Mac. I'm going to jump down to the installation itself. As I said, I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to use the command here, the one for Mac OS. And essentially what this command does is two things in one, in case you haven't tried this before. It's going to download the Claude Code installer from Anthropic's website. And then it's going to run the installer automatically. So what it's essentially doing is the same thing as if you had gone to Microsoft's website, downloaded the installer from Microsoft Word, and double-clicked it and installed the program. This is just doing that in one command. So the first step is to copy this command and then open your terminal. So I've opened the terminal app, which on Mac is the native app for interacting with the command line, which is this text-based interface. That's also why you hear tools like Claude Code and OpenAI's Codex referred to as CLI tools, command line interface tools. It's because you interact with them through the command line. So I'm just going to paste the command that I copied from Anthropic's website here in the terminal and press enter. And now it's going to get started installing Claude Code. Okay, now I have Claude Code installed on my computer. So after installation, you're going to want to interact with Claude Code. So if we scroll down here, the way that you get going with Claude Code is to spin it up in a project. In other words, in a folder on your computer. And if you don't yet have a workspace folder where you want to interact with Claude Code, I'm going to show you how you can actually use Claude Code to help you build up a workspace. So first, let's just create a folder. And I'm just going to do this right on my desktop, just a new folder. I'm going to name it my workspace. Okay, so now that we've got our workspace folder, the next step is to spin up Claude inside of this folder. And you can do that just by right-clicking on the folder and then selecting New Terminal, Add Folder. And then you will get this terminal pop up and you can see that we're inside this My Workspace folder. And to initiate Claude, we just type Claude and press enter. If you're doing this for the first time, you will probably be prompted to sign in to your Claude account. So this does require that you have an account. And you may also be asked whether you trust this folder if this is the first time you're opening Claude in it. So you would just say yes, assuming you do trust it, and a browser window will pop up for you to sign in to your Claude account. Once you have logged in and you've confirmed that you trust the folder that you're in, you will end here with Claude booted up and ready to go. And since the folder we have right now is completely empty, if you don't really have your own vision for how you want to organize your work, you can just ask Claude to help you make kind of a starter structure that you can build on. So what I would do is I would tell Claude a little bit about who I am or what my work is, what my needs are, and then ask it to build out a folder structure. I'm just going to say that now. Can you help me build out a folder structure for my work? I am a COO for a mid-sized company, and I also do speaking engagements and write articles on the side. And I'm looking for a PKM style setup, personal knowledge management, that can help me more efficiently juggle the different aspects of my work. Then Claude's gonna get going on my request. Okay, so Claude has come back, and I think it's great that it also has some questions for me. It has suggested a structure already, but it has a few questions to, as it says, tailor this properly. It's asking what tool am I using and how I capture ideas on the go, and whether these three areas overlap very much. And then it has suggested this pretty classic PKM style with an inbox and projects and areas, resources and archive, para style. And it has sort of made some starter projects based on what I told it. Also some areas. I think this is pretty nice, especially given the context I gave it. And I'll just quickly answer its questions. I could also just say, let's just go with this, but let me see. I'm using Obsidian, and I use the Obsidian mobile app to capture ideas on the go. The three areas, actually they overlap a lot. The articles and the talks that I give are heavily inspired by my daily work. Okay, so now it's come back. Because I said there's heavy overlap between these different areas of my professional life, it has revised the structure. At this point, again, you can go back and forth until you're happy with the structure it started. You can, of course, always improve on it moving forward. It hasn't done anything yet. The folder is still empty, but I'm just going to tell it to go ahead. Yes, do that. Now here it's asking for permission to do something. So it's trying to create new folders in this workspace. If you want to know more about what this command actually does to help you decide whether you want to approve it, AI assistants are your friend. Copy paste this either into a new Claude Code tab or into your AI assistant of choice. What does this command do, right? And then it can help you to better decide, for example, if you want to allow it just this one time, or if you always want to allow these types of commands in this project. In this case, I'm always going to allow it to do this. Okay, so after it's worked for a few minutes, it has now created this folder structure, and it's even given me how to set this up in Obsidian if I haven't already set up Obsidian in this folder, which is actually what we're going to do next. And then a little bit about the workflow to use this structure. Let me just show you. You can see if I open here, you can see that it has created these folders for me. So the next step would be to now get this set up in Obsidian. But before we jump into that, since we now have a basic structure for our workspace, I'm actually going to run a command in Claude Code. And the way we run a command is that we do this /, and I'm going to run the init command. And you can see here it is describing what it's going to do. It's going to create this Claude.md file. And what the Claude.md file is essentially a roadmap for your project. So it's going to outline what it is this project does, which components it has, how to use it, any information that that is relevant for the entire project. Even things like rules for how to navigate in it. And this is not so much a document for you, it's a document for Claude. So it is going to read this every single time you spin up Claude into this project, so that it has this kind of background information about what it's working with. And the Claude.md file is also something that gets continually updated, that Claude handles this on its own automatically, but it will continually update the Claude.md file to get a clearer picture of what this project is. So that's why, but you do need to initialize it. So that's why I'm running this command to, now that we have a little bit of a skeleton, we get this first version of the Claude.md file. I'm gonna run that. Okay, let's get this set up in Obsidian. I'm gonna go to File, Open Vault. And since we made the folder already, I'm going to open folder as Vault. And we put it on the desktop. And that's the workspace. I'm going to open this. So now you can see here all of our folders. Claude said, yeah, it had an example inbox item, and it also had an example output article, and it also had an example note. And it has created some front matter. So then it also mentioned that there were some plugins that needed to be installed. And I don't off the top of my head remember which plugins those were. And the beauty with Claude Code is that I can actually just go back in and then ask it. Okay, so now I have Claude Code spun up once again in the My Workspace folder, and I'm just going to ask it, which Obsidian plugins do I have to install in order to run this workspace? So it's looked into it, and it has come back that there is one required, the data view plugin, and then one recommended, the templater. And I think I just want to stick for now with the required. So I'm going to go ahead and install the data view plugin. Okay, now that the data view plugin is installed, I can then see these tables in the maps of content. Of course, there's not really anything here because I haven't started using the workspace, but here is where we would see the tables with the data view plugin. So at this point, you are good to go. You can just get started with this. How I usually do it is I have Obsidian up on one side of my screen, and I have Claude Code spun up in the folder on the other side. You can also install a terminal plugin into Obsidian, so you can actually open terminal inside Obsidian. This is just sort of the way I normally do it. And then you interact with Claude here in the terminal in the same way that you would interact with Claude in the app, with the added advantage of it has access to read and write everything in this folder. So just as an example, now Claude made this example inbox item, and I can directly tag this note using the @ sign. And if I start to type, it gives me a suggestion down here, and I'll just press enter to accept. So now I'm referencing this note, and I can just tell Claude, help me process this note. And it actually is telling me it's already been processed. That second example that Claude created in the beginning was an example of that note having been processed. So this is also nice because then now I can just delete this one, right? And it can also happen in your workflow that you forget that you've already processed something, and then Claude can catch you on that. You can tell Claude to delete it. I'm just going to do that now. Yes, delete it. And this is also an important reminder that Claude can delete everything it has access to. Now I've specifically asked it to, but it can maybe also misunderstand instructions and end up deleting something. Here it is again asking for permission to delete it. You can, if you want to operate in like YOLO mode and you have a good backup system, you can say yes, always allow it to delete, or you can just give it a one-time yes. The first one is just like, yes, you can do that right now because I asked you to do that. And see, now it has deleted it. So while we're on the topic of deleting files, it's a good time to underline that you should have some kind of backups for your project. Honestly, I feel like this is a good practice, regardless of whether or not you're using Claude Code, because you can also delete something by accident. So there are a lot of different ways that you can do handle backups. In Obsidian itself, there's two very viable plugins for this. One is a Git plugin that'll integrate version control via Git, and you can automate the frequency of the backup. And then you also have a local backup plugin that will create like local zip files on your computer. Again, you also set the interval. I think for the vast majority of people, doing a backup daily is plenty. If you really want, you could do something like hourly if you're really working with a lot of information and you're making a lot of changes. You can also ask Claude Code to help you initialize a Git repository, sync it to GitHub. It can walk you through step by step, and then you can create a command in Claude Code that you run, for example, at the end of every workday to sync the changes to your GitHub repository. That's the way I do it. I have a GitHub repository, and it's just a part of my daily ritual that at the end of every day, I run a command that will sync the changes to my GitHub. But you can also use these plugins, and then you kind of don't have to think about it if you just set it to make a backup every day, for example. Okay, so let's have a little recap of what we just did. We installed Claude Code, created a workspace folder, and then asked Claude to help us build out a folder structure based on what our actual work consists of. We then initialized the Claude.md file, the little roadmap for the project for Claude. And then finally, we connected it to Obsidian, and we started interacting with our files in Obsidian together with Claude Code. And then we had a little chat about backups and how important it is you choose some kind of backup strategy. And all of that really took like 15 minutes end to end. And it's obviously something you can continue to refine and work on together with Claude. So once you set this up, you have an AI assistant that doesn't just answer your questions in a chat interface, but actually lives inside your workspace, reads your files, can organize things with you, can edit, and can basically work alongside you. And that's what really got me hooked on using Claude Code. It's this seamless nature of the interaction. So thanks for watching. Please like this video if it was helpful for you. Leave me a comment if you have any questions. And if you look down in the description, you'll see some useful links to help you do this yourself. And also if you want some help setting up your own version that's more tailored, I've also linked an AI tutor prompt in the description that you can just paste into your AI assistant of choice, and it'll help you step by step.